Jana, thanks. A warning about eating fish at two fishing spots in Western Mass. They're on a list of places where chemicals dangerous to humans have been detected by state health officials. Western Mass News reporter Glenn Kittle has the story.
Attention all fishermen. The Department of Health has found polyfluoroalkyl substances, otherwise known as PFAS, in the fish in two bodies of water in Western Mass. And they say that if consumed, it could have major health effects on humans. In a warning that went out Monday from the Massachusetts Department of Health, PFAS are a group of chemicals used since the 1950s to manufacture stain-resistant, water-resistant, and non-stick products. DPH reports the higher levels of these chemicals were found in freshwater fish at the Chicopee Reservoir and at Pequot Pond in Westfield. Western Mass News spoke with some people who were taking their afternoon stroll in Chicopee Park about these chemicals being found in fish locally.
Not too good.
I'd need to know more, but it doesn't sound like a good thing, certainly right off the bat.
Those who consume contaminated fish in these waters are at risk for serious health consequences. DPH says PFAS exposure has been shown to cause developmental health effects in fetuses during pregnancy. Some studies also suggest an increased risk of developing cancer following long-term exposure to the chemicals. DPH also tested surface-level water for PFAS. They found chemicals in the water are not at levels that would be unsafe for swimming or recreational activities. Reporting in Chicopee, Glenn Kittle, Western Mass News.